This cannot go on. I won't let my mother-in-law have her way. Her singing lessons continued in the days that followed. However, after about a week, Amelia told me, I don't want Grandma to teach me anymore. I don't want to sing. Given my mother-in-law's way of teaching, I thought it couldn't be helped. You don't have to force yourself. If you want to quit, that's okay too. So, you don't want to go back to the voice training class? It was something she had started because she wanted to, and I, for my part, wanted her to continue, so I asked her that. If it's that class, it seemed that Amelia hadn't come to hate singing itself. It appeared that the harsh words from her grandmother and the lack of praise, even when she felt she did well, were making it unenjoyable for her. Why don't you go back to your voice training lessons and give it another shot? I asked Amelia. And as if she hadn't been upset moments before, she perked up and nodded enthusiastically. So, I'm sorry to say this to you, grandmother, but from tomorrow, Amelia will be returning to her original voice training classes. The next day arrived. I relayed Amelia's feelings to her grandmother over the phone. How can she whine about giving up after just a week? Isn't it your fault for raising such a weak-minded child? My mother-in-law exclaimed. I retorted, well, it might be, but even though you graduated top of your class from a prestigious music college, it seems that's the only way you know how to teach. Amelia told me that she preferred her voice training teacher. Fussing and fuming, my mother-in-law continued, but I ignored her and hung up. Whether she was top of her class or not, it was quite satisfying that her own teaching method had led to her being disliked by her granddaughter, who preferred her voice training teacher. After that, the visits from the grandmother ceased. I spoken to your mother and told her it was okay as she didn't come to teach anymore. Amelia said she didn't want it anymore either. I also feel like I've done something unforgivable to Amelia. Back in the day, my mother was very strict with me about music, so I couldn't say anything, but I thought she wouldn't be so harsh on her granddaughter. I'm really sorry. I confessed to my husband Nathan that night. When I relayed this to him, he seemed deeply regretful and apologized. I was so angry when Nathan suggested quitting Amelia's voice training class and having the grandmother teach her. I almost felt like punching him. But fortunately, Amelia didn't come to hate music, so I decided to forgive him. 2 weeks later, Nathan said, my sister is getting married in a month, and she asks us to perform. I had never performed at someone else's wedding before. What kind of performance is she expecting? I was planning to bring a few people from my band and do a small concert, but my sister really wants you and my mother to sing as well. Hearing that the grandmother would also be performing, I reluctantly accepted Nathan's suggestion. So, does that mean I'll be singing with your mother? Well, yeah, that's how it seems. Singing with my mother-in-law of all people. I wondered if it would be all right. But if I happen to sing better than her at this performance, I wondered what she'll say. I started practicing the very next day. But there was no sign of my mother-in-law practicing at all. Mother, aren't you going to practice? I'm fine. I'm much better than you even without practicing. After all, practice is something that people like you, who are not very good, need to do. I tried asking because I was curious, but the only response from my mother-in-law was sarcasm. I decided it was a waste of time to engage with her and focused on my own preparations. After we decided what song to perform, I also increased the frequency of my voice training lessons. I was sick of being ridiculed by my mother-in-law. And above all, I was anxious about performing in public after such a long time without proper training. On the day of my sister-in-law's wedding, the ceremony went smoothly, and the time for the entertainment had finally come. First, my husband Nathan took the stage and began to play his music. As expected, given he plays regularly, he was confident and exuded an elegant aura. I was utterly mesmerized by Nathan's performance. I'm not feeling well today. Could you sing on your own then? Out of the blue, my mother-in-law told me to sing solo. What? That's so sudden. It's not fair. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Or what? Are you too embarrassed to sing in front of others because you're uneducated and ugly? She said this without a hint of remorse. Okay, I know it. She's doing this on purpose, I thought, and decided to retort. Being uneducated and ugly, I've practiced hard, so I won't be embarrassed singing in front of others. I asked you several times if you needed to practice, but you showed no signs of doing so. Whom could it be that you're actually a terrible singer? That's not true. My mother-in-law raised her voice in response to my question. The people around us began to stir, wondering what was going on. Sorry, it's nothing. I thought up from my seat, apologized to those around me, and then pressed my mother-in-law further. Graduating as the valedictorian from the music college, you sure talk big about teaching others, huh? Are you running away because you're embarrassed to sing with me since I'm better? I whispered this in her ear.
What did you say?
There's no way that's true. If I sing with a low-educated, ugly person like you, it would only throw me off. Didn't your parents teach you that? You and your parents are truly incompetent. She disparaged me as being uneducated and ugly, and even insulted my parents in front of everyone. Embarrassed and angry, I wanted to leave right at that moment. But if I ran away now, it would just make her happy. What are you doing just sitting there? Hurry up. Okay then. I will. Excuse me. Just as Nathan's performance ended, I took his place on stage. I was supposed to sing with my mother-in-law, but due to her not feeling well, I would be singing solo. Instead of the song I was supposed to sing with her, I chose an opera song I used to sing a lot when I was competitive, an aria from The Marriage of Figaro. And so I began to sing. At that moment, perhaps due to the vocal training I had done, my condition was excellent, and I was able to produce the most beautiful vibrato I'd ever achieved. It was amazing. The audience was mesmerized by my singing, saying things like, "Wow, her voice is incredible, and is she a professional?" When I finished singing my song without any hitches, the audience gave me a standing ovation, showering me with thunderous applause. Congrats on your wedding, sister-in-law. You know, I used to be the choir leader in high school. It's been a few years since I last sang in front of an audience, so I was a bit nervous. How did I do? Thanks so much for listening. After making this statement, I returned to my seat, and my daughter, all starry-eyed, pleaded, "Mom, your voice was so beautiful. Can you teach me next time?" Witnessing this, my mother-in-law, with her jealousy on full display, said in a huff, anyone can sing like that. Don't get ahead of yourself." Continuing to belittle my singing. Just as I thought the entertainment segment was over, my sister-in-law unexpectedly said, "Mother-in-law, you should sing too." Words that I didn't expect came out from my sister-in-law. My mother-in-law was taken aback and looked at her daughter in confusion. Asking me, "I've never heard you sing, Mom. And since you taught me so much about music when I was young, I'd really love to hear you sing," my sister-in-law expressed with pure honesty. The attendees chimed in. "Mother-in-law, you should definitely sing." Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The crystal champagne glasses clinked as my stepmother Victoria raised her third toast of the evening. "To my darling husband's retirement," she proclaimed, her designer dress sparkling under the ballroom lights, "and to selling this tired old company for something more exciting." I watched my father's face fall slightly, though he tried to hide it behind a smile. Harrison Industries had been his life's work, built from nothing over 30 years. Now, at his own retirement party, he was watching his trophy wife of 5 years plan its dismantling. But Victoria wasn't done. Her eyes found me across the crowded room, glittering with malice. "Of course, some people thought they'd inherit this company," she said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. Poor little Isabella, thinking Daddy would hand over a multi-million-dollar business to someone who can't even keep a relationship longer than 6 months. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Several board members shifted awkwardly, while others pretended to be fascinated by their drinks. My father just stared at his shoes, saying nothing, as usual. "It's for the best, really," Victoria continued, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Running a company requires maturity, experience, and a proper family image." She patted her perfectly flat stomach meaningfully, a reminder of her recent announcement that she was trying to give my father a real heir. I felt my cheeks burn, but kept my face neutral. Let her have her moment. She had no idea what was coming. "Would you like to say something, Isabella?" Victoria asked sweetly. Perhaps congratulate your father on his retirement and his wise decision about the company's future? I stood slowly, smoothing my black blazer. At 28, I was young for a CFO, but I earned every step up the corporate ladder. Not that Victoria knew that. She thought I was just another middle manager, kept around out of my father's guilt after my mother's death. Actually, I said, my voice clear and steady, I do have something to say. Victoria's smirk widened as I walked to the center of the room. She probably expected tears, pleading, maybe even a scene. Instead, I pulled out a thick envelope from my briefcase. 6 months ago, I began, addressing the whole room. Harrison Industries underwent a quiet restructuring. The board approved it unanimously. I glanced at several board members who nodded slightly. My father transferred majority ownership to a new holding company. Victoria's smirk faltered slightly. My father finally looked up, confusion crossing his face. The holding company is called YLW Enterprises, I continued, enjoying the way Victoria's perfectly made-up face scrunched in confusion. YLW stands for Elizabeth Laura Harrison, my mother's name. Now Victoria's champagne glass was shaking slightly. What are you talking about? She demanded. I opened the envelope and began laying out documents on the nearest table. These papers show that I own 67% of Harrison Industries through YLW Enterprises. My father retains 30%, and the remaining 3% is divided among key employees. The room erupted in chaos. Victoria lunged for the papers, her expensive manicure scratching at the legal documents as if she could make them disappear. This is impossible, she shrieked. Thomas, tell her this is impossible. But my father was smiling, really smiling for the first time in years. It's all legal, Victoria, he said quietly. Isabella earned this. She's been practically running the company for the past 2 years while I've been distracted. He looked at me apologetically. But, Victoria sputtered, her face turning an alarming shade of red beneath her makeup. We have plans. The house in the Hamptons, the yacht club membership. About that, I said, pulling out another document. As majority owner, I've been reviewing all company expenses, including the rather generous consulting fees being paid to your brother's fake marketing firm and the business trips that somehow always ended up at luxury spas. Victoria went pale. You wouldn't dare. I already have. The board has approved a full audit. The police are very interested in some of the more creative accounting you and your brother arranged. Thomas. Victoria whirled on my father. Are you going to let her do this to me, your wife? My father stood straighter than I'd seen him stand since my mother died. My late wife, Elizabeth, helped me build this company, he said firmly. She made me promise it would go to our daughter when the time was right. Isabella has proven herself more than capable. And you, he shook his head sadly. You proved yourself too, just not in the way you intended. Victoria's carefully constructed world was crumbling. Her designer purse fell open as she grabbed for her phone, spilling its contents across the floor. Among them was a small USB drive that I recognized, one that had gone missing from my father's office months ago, containing proprietary company designs. Looking for a buyer for our trade secrets? I asked quietly, picking up the drive. That would explain all those lunch meetings with our competitors. Victoria's face contorted with rage. She raised her hand as if to slap me, but my father caught her wrist. Security will escort you out, I said calmly. Your personal belongings will be shipped to you after they're checked for any other company property. Of course, and Victoria, I smiled sweetly, channeling her own fake sympathy. Don't worry about the prenup. It has a lovely clause about corporate espionage. As security led a screaming Victoria away, the room buzzed with excitement. Board members came to congratulate me. Employees who'd suffered under Victoria's reign looked relieved. And my father pulled me into a tight hug. I'm so sorry, Bella, he whispered. I've been such a fool. Your mother would be so proud of you. I hugged him back, breathing in the familiar scent of his aftershave. I know, Dad. I know. But our moment of reconciliation was interrupted by an urgent call. Victoria's brother had been caught trying to delete files from the company's servers. And something told me this was just the beginning of the storm. I touched my mother's old wedding ring, which I wore on a chain around my neck. Ready for this, Dad? He squeezed my shoulder. Lead the way, CEO. As we walked to the elevator, I could still hear Victoria's shrieks from the lobby. But I wasn't worried. I'd learned from the best, my mother's business acumen, my father's innovation, and yes, even Victoria's cutthroat ambition. They'd all taught me valuable lessons. Now, it was time to show them exactly what those lessons had created. The morning after the retirement party, I arrived at Harrison Industries earlier than usual. The sun hadn't even risen, but I found my father already in his office, sorting through years of memories. Couldn't sleep either? I asked, helping him pack a framed photo of him and Mom at the company's grand opening. Been thinking about your mother, he said softly. She always said you had her business instincts. Watch out for that girl, she'd tell me. She'll outshine us both someday. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus, our head of IT security. Miss Harrison, we have a situation. Multiple attempts to access our servers from unauthorized locations. And you need to see this. Within minutes, I was staring at my computer screen in disbelief. Someone had leaked confidential company emails to our biggest competitors.